She was never taught how sacred her no is, only that love means compliance, that softness means surrender, that keeping the peace is more important than keeping her own center. And so she became agreeable, pleasant, flexible, always adapting to his needs, his moods, his pace. She made room for him even when he didn't ask for it. She made excuses for him even when her soul whispered otherwise. And at first he liked it. Her warmth, her patience, her endless yes. But over time, something shifted. He stopped texting as much. His eyes wandered. The emotional intimacy faded. And she was left wondering, I gave him everything. Why wasn't it enough? The truth is, men don't fall out of love because a woman is too much. They fall out of love because she forgets she's someone, not just someone for them. Let's begin. 1. Her yes feels like surrender, not self. At first, he admires her softness, her willingness to accommodate, the way she leans in without resistance. She agrees, she adjusts, she gives, and he feels seen, even adored. But over time, something subtle begins to die in the space between them. Not her affection, but her presence, her edge, her boundaries, her identity. Because her constant yes doesn't come from her essence, it comes from her survival instinct. The belief that if she ever says no, she'll be abandoned. And men feel that, even when they can't name it. What once felt like devotion now feels like diffusion. The energy between them becomes flat, predictable, passive, and without even realizing it, he starts to pull back, not because he wants to hurt her, but because there is no polarity left. No mystery, no dance. A relationship needs friction to stay alive. Not conflict, but clarity. Not argument, but autonomy. When a woman disappears into her yes, she becomes emotionally weightless, easy to carry, and easy to let go of, and that's the paradox. She thought saying yes to everything would keep him close, but in truth, it made her invisible. Her yes stopped being an act of love and became a mask to avoid rejection, to earn approval, to maintain connection at any cost. But a connection that requires your self-abandonment isn't intimacy, it's performance, it's devotion, with no center. And deep down, every man knows when a woman is no longer choosing him, but simply defaulting to him. He may not say it, he may not fully understand it, but the attraction fades, the respect fades, the emotional depth evaporates, because no one, not even the most loving man, can remain magnetized to a woman who is no longer grounded in herself. And that is the hidden tragedy of always saying yes. It keeps the peace, but it kills the fire. 2. He starts testing her limits and finds none. When a woman never says no, she teaches him, silently, subtly, that there are no consequences, no boundaries, no edge to where she ends and he begins. So he starts to push, not always maliciously, sometimes unconsciously. He cancels plans last minute. He ignores messages. He becomes emotionally unavailable, and each time she absorbs it, excuses it, rationalizes it. He's just going through something. Maybe I expected too much. And slowly, she teaches him exactly how little she will tolerate in order to be kept. But what she doesn't realize is this: every time she forgives without change, every time she stays silent in discomfort, every time she swallows her no to preserve the connection, she's showing him that he doesn't have to rise, that he doesn't have to meet her, that her love is unconditional, even in the absence of effort. And instead of inspiring deeper intimacy, It breeds complacency, not because he's cruel, but because he's human. And humans calibrate their behavior based on what is allowed. The absence of boundaries doesn't create safety. It creates emotional laziness. He stops trying, stops initiating, stops cherishing. And she feels it, but she doesn't know how to name it. So she tries harder, loves louder, gives more, hoping he will finally value what's always been there. But what's always been there without resistance often gets taken for granted. Not because it lacks value, but because it lacks contrast. Desire dies in spaces where nothing is ever challenged. And in time, she becomes the woman who holds the relationship together alone, who carries the weight of both hearts, who hopes that her effort will eventually awaken his. But it never does, because effort cannot compensate for the absence of self. And love, in its highest form, is not about keeping someone. It's about meeting them, fully, equally, and without disappearing to do so. 3. Her kindness feels like obligation, not choice. He says she's amazing, that she's the sweetest person he's ever met, that no one has ever cared for him the way she does, and she believes him, because she is kind. She does care, but what he doesn't say, what maybe he doesn't even consciously know, is that her kindness has started to feel like duty, not desire, not expression, but a quiet, expected performance of femininity that no longer holds its soul. When a woman keeps saying yes to everything, her giving becomes default, predictable, automatic, and over time, what was once felt as nourishment becomes invisible. It's not her fault. It's the way humans adapt. What is always available loses its intensity. What is never questioned becomes background noise. He no longer feels her kindness. He expects it. He assumes it. He consumes it. But he doesn't reach for it anymore. And deep down, she senses it. That her efforts land flat. That her tenderness no longer moves him. So she gives more. Softer words. Bigger gestures. More availability. And with every new offering, her hope whispers, this time, he'll feel it. This time, he'll see me. But he doesn't, because what was once sacred has become routine. Her, yes, her care, her presence, all stripped of intentionality, all drained of self. Kindness only magnetizes when it comes from wholeness, not from fear, not from separation. When a woman stops offering her gifts from a place of choice, they begin to lose their glow. And no man, no matter how emotionally attuned, can feel depth in a love that no longer comes from within. He may not understand why his connection fades, but beneath it all, it's because her kindness was no longer alive. It was just always there, for he doesn't feel chosen, he feels tolerated. It sounds backwards. How can a man not feel chosen by a woman who gives him everything, who shows up, who says yes, who never complains? But that's precisely the point. When a woman gives indiscriminately, without discernment, without pause, without boundaries, it stops feeling like love and starts feeling like obligation. He doesn't feel wanted, he feels accommodated. And no one wants to be loved out of duty. When she says yes to everything, he begins to wonder, is this who she really is? Or is this who she becomes to keep me? That question, even if unspoken, begins to erode the trust. Not the trust in her loyalty, but the trust in her authenticity. Her presence becomes passive. Her love feels inevitable. And instead of feeling like he's being chosen, he feels like he just showed up first, and now she's staying by default. Over time, this dynamic chips away at attraction, not just physical, but emotional. Men, just like women, want to feel seen, selected, desired. And when a woman never asserts her no, when she never challenges, never redirects, never says this isn't okay with me, she stops feeling like a full person. And instead, she becomes a mirror for him, reflecting his wants, responding to his moods, but never fully showing herself. What he misses, without knowing it, is her fire, her refusal, her wildness, her edge, the part of her that says, I love you, but I won't abandon myself for you. That's the kind of woman a man feels chosen by, because that kind of love has weight, has presence, has soul. When everything is yes, nothing feels sacred. And slowly, without malice, he drifts, searching for a spark he never realized he extinguished. 5. He loses respect, not because she changed, but because she never did. Respect in love isn't born from perfection. It's born from presence, from truth, from a woman's ability to stand rooted in herself, even when it risks disapproval. But when a woman constantly says yes, when she avoids conflict, avoids asserting her needs, avoids the discomfort of her own no, something sacred begins to slip away. And it's not just her self-respect, it's his respect for her to dot at. First, he appreciates her. He feels safe, in control, admired. But as the months pass, he starts to feel something else. Not anger, not boredom, something softer, but more dangerous. Contempt, that quiet erosion of admiration. He doesn't say it aloud. He may not even admit it to himself, but her yes, once so sweet, now feels spineless. Her love, once so nourishing, now feels performative. And slowly, he stops looking at her with reverence. This is the hidden tragedy of the nice girl, the one who never rocks the boat. She believes her goodness will protect the relationship, that being easy to love will make her unforgettable. But men don't forget women who were easy to please. They forget the ones who never showed their full dimension. And love without respect is not love. It's attachment. It's safety without spark. Closeness without soul. To be respected is not to be feared. It's to be felt fully as a woman who can say yes and no, who can open wide and set boundaries, who can love deeply and love herself more. That is the woman a man doesn't just desire, he honors, because her truth calls him higher. And her no doesn't threaten the relationship, it defines it. 6. He can't feel her anymore, only her effort. In the beginning, he felt her not just her presence, but her essence. The way her laughter wasn't filtered, the way her eyes held mystery, the way she would pull away just slightly before leaning back in. There was a rhythm, a life force, a pulse. But as the months passed, something changed. She became more available, more agreeable, more giving, but less alive, less vibrant, less her. He still sees her body, still hears her voice, still receives her love, but he can't feel her anymore. Not really. What he feels now is her effort, her management of the dynamic, her constant scanning for his moods, her anticipation of his needs. She has become so attuned to him that she's forgotten how to be with herself. And when a woman disconnects from her own source, no matter how beautiful she remains, her energy dims. He may not articulate it, but he begins to disengage, to withdraw, to feel disconnected. Not because she's done something wrong, but because her love no longer feels sovereign. It feels manufactured, a performance of connection rather than a channel of it. Her yes is no longer a gift, it's a routine. And men, like all humans, crave realness, that spark of unpredictability, that pulse of truth. The tragedy is, she was trying to keep him, but in doing so, she lost the very thing that made her magnetic, herself. And the more she tries to win him back by giving even more, the more he retreats, because love doesn't live in effort alone. It lives in presence. And presence only comes when a woman remembers. She doesn't have to earn love by vanishing. She can be fully here and still be deeply wanted. 7. He stops seeing her as a woman, starts seeing her as a role. At some point, she becomes the caretaker, the nurturer, the emotional healer, the one who always shows up, no matter how little she receives. And without realizing it, he stops seeing her as a woman, a mystery, a force, a soul. He starts seeing her as a role, something steady, reliable, safe, but not sacred, not magnetic, not alive with her own fire. When a woman always says yes, she becomes a function in his life, not a presence. She manages the relationship. She maintains the peace. She holds everything together. But she stops dancing. She stops challenging. She stops radiating the very essence that once called him in. And he too changes. He becomes passive, distant, or worse, careless. Not because he stopped loving her, but because she stopped inviting him to meet her. And that's the secret no one tells us. When you forget your feminine energy, your wildness, your soul, you may still be loved, but it won't be the kind of love that moves you or awakens him. It will be the kind of love that survives, not thrives. The kind of love that says thank you but never says wow. And women weren't made to be fine. We were made to be felt. When a woman remembers her power to say no, to choose, to pause, to redirect, to claim space, she becomes more than a role. She becomes a mirror, a muse, a magnetic force. And the man who is truly meant for her won't be tired of that. He will be ignited by it. Because a woman who knows her no makes her yes sacred again. Asterisk, you thought that loving deeply meant saying yes. Yes to his moods, yes to his timing, yes to the pauses, the doubts, the waiting. You thought that by giving more, you would finally be held. But love doesn't grow in self-abandonment. It fades there, quietly, tragically, until one day you look in the mirror and can't find the woman who used to say, "This is what I want." You don't lose him when you say no. You lose yourself when you don't. And the most sacred truth is this: a woman who honors her no isn't pushing love away. She's purifying it. She's calling it to rise, to meet her, not just keep her. So, if you've been afraid that your no will make you too difficult, too cold, too much, let this be your reminder. You are not too much. You are finally becoming yourself again. And that is what real love longs for, a woman who doesn't just say yes to a man, but says yes to herself first. Asterisk, if you're still here, it means something in this message reached a part of you that rarely speaks, the part that's been waiting to be chosen by you, not just to be loved, but to be seen by the one person who has spent a lifetime loving everyone else first. You don't have to write a perfect comment. Just tell me, where have you said yes when your soul was screaming no? Your words may echo in someone else's silence. Your truth may liberate another woman's pain. This space is sacred, not because of the content, but because of you. And if something in this felt like coming home, subscribe, not just for more videos, but for healing, remembering, and rising. Because here, you are not asked to shrink, to be loved, you are invited to expand and still be worthy. You are never too much and never alone. Welcome back to yourself and welcome home.